everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Tiger's Den Live. I'm your host, Will Figueroa, and as always, we're joined with the founder of ClevelandRain.com, the man behind the Tiger framework himself, Paul Routhier. How are you, sir?
Good morning, evening, and afternoon, as you like to put it.
Good afternoon. Yeah, that's right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you watch, right? It's so funny that you start that way because we're going to go right into rejuvenation.
But I'm so tired.
Yes. Exactly. You know, the last time we spoke about rejuvenation, it was really interesting, at least for me anyway. And if you're watching or if you're listening, please let us know in the comments what you think. We definitely would love your feedback so that we can help you also stop scratching away through life and really clawing to your success using the Tiger framework. And the last time we spoke, what kind of hit me hard was not only your points in regards to making it holistic, meaning, you know, all over, right? It's not just your individual body. It's not just your mind, but enjoy time with your family or your chosen family. Make sure you're doing it even from the enterprise perspective. You spoke about making sure that your team is rejuvenated, making sure that they're going on vacation, know their wants, know their desires. And we spoke briefly yesterday before kind of all hell broke loose and we had to postpone, and now we are where we are today. We spoke briefly in regards to specifically that you're constantly bringing on new clients now, some of which are brand spanking new to the business world, some of which are very seasoned. And I was complimenting you on your innate ability to very quickly find problem and then put a plan together to solve it. When it comes to rejuvenation, how do we identify the problem first, whether it's lack thereof, or talk to us about the process that you go through with a brand new client and how you map specifically to scheduling their rejuvenation, whether it's a day, an hour. Do you sprinkle it across all of their schedules? How do you find what the issue is? And then how do you plan specifically for rejuvenation?
Well, I think it has more to do with on the rejuvenation side of are they taking time for this? It's a pretty simple question. Are they taking time out for themselves? Do they feel stressed and overwhelmed? People who don't rejuvenate tend to be stressed out all the time. Are they tired? Are they sleeping at night? What's going through their heads when they're going to bed? What do they do just before they go to bed? That all kind of kicks in. Are they spending quality time with their family? How is their home relationship? It all kind of culminates in a set of symptoms, I guess I'll say that
Right.
that kind of show that they're not taking time to come out. And I'm thinking about this as you're speaking about it. We always talk in business about impacts, right? How things get, what is the final impact? So what's the impact of rejuvenation? I actually caught wind this last weekend of a really big impact of kind of that rejuvenation, because I used to be the workaholic type guy, and over the past 10 years I've really kind of scheduled time to spend with family. And so one of the things that we do once a year, we take a weekend and we go to the Renaissance Festival, right? So
Cool.
yeah. So, swords and horses and
Yes,
jousting and
lords and ladies.
yeah. And the biggest one in the country is actually here in Minnesota, about 3 miles from my house.
I don't know that.
So, and we take our daughter to that every year, right? And it's interesting. She's a senior this year, and when she became a junior, and I gave her the car keys in the car, I assumed that she was going to be like me and disappear for the next 2 years, right?
Yeah.
So we've had the great time with her, and it's it's over, and so the time that I scheduled to spend with her and do those things really showed up. The payoff showed up this last week
Mm.
because she came to us
Did she make it
and
a point?
said, "Are
Love
we
that.
going? We need to go to the Renaissance Festival together."
It's
And
tradition.
and 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 not only that, I love hanging out with you guys. I have so much fun.
Oh,
You
love that.
know, I know I will never regret a moment of those times. But if it were reversed and in the old days, I wouldn't have gotten this payoff, right?
Wow.
So it really hit home this weekend when my daughter came and said, "Hey, I want to hang out with you guys,"
Love
because
that.
I put that time in over the years to spend with her, not forcing her to go. She just like she wanted to grab her best friend and she wanted to go with us, and she hung out with us the entire time. It was kind of amazing. So there are significant impacts to your relationships, to how you deal with people, to who you are by rejuvenating.
Love it. Love it. And Alex is putting a comment in the feed here. Thank you, you wonderful humans. Alex Hadfield. Thank you so much. Yeah, appreciate the love and the appreciation. It's rejuvenating, Alex. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Alex.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Oh, look, he's got another one. Men like you are the making and keeping of this world. That I appreciate that, Alex. Thank you so much.
Thank
Uh,
you. Wow.
it's that that touches my heart. And talk about impact, right? Like what you've done and what you've created isn't just between you and your daughter. Isn't just and I love that I get to be on this ride with you because we're now and we're talking about it yesterday in our business meeting, our kind of internal meeting. We're really at the crest of comments like that just being flooded in because this is something that you could use anywhere, right? It's not just in business, it's in life. It's why I love the Tiger framework. So Alex Hadfield over at LinkedIn, thank you so much for the comment. Appreciate you. And thanks for watching. uh, One of the things that I also wanted to get into, and you touched on this briefly, is the idea of, and this was specifically in regards to employees, invest versus reject. How can we make sure that just like you put things in place with your daughter at home or in our own personal life, uh, what else can we do specifically to invest in our employees before we have to reject them? And what I mean by reject them is, remove them from the organization or having to let them go because of one other reason, for one reason or another. How can we ensure that we're really taking care of our team and that we're investing in rejuvenation versus having to reject things or people for that matter?
Well, the biggest thing that you can do, and I've said this for years, the biggest gift you can give anybody is an offer of curiosity, right?
Yeah.
To be curious about them, and that's specifically important with employees. And I'll frame this to a sales team, but this goes out to every area of the company. You shouldn't only know your employees from a business standpoint. You need to know them personally. You need to understand their workings and what excites them, what they enjoy. A lot of companies put out benefits that that are totally non-congruent with their employees' needs and wants. But I'll go. Let's use the example of sales teams. Generally, high-performing sales teams have something they call President's Club, and it's a reward for the
Okay.
right President's Club, right. So it's usually the award to the highest performing salesperson. And it's funny that I see so many companies, they just put it out. Here's what the reward is. They've not talked to the employees. They don't know what they want, and
Uh,
so
I see. I see.
it's a trip to Bavaria when the guys all love to golf. It's a golf trip when most of the guys ski. I mean, I need to understand my team so that I can find the one thing that will motivate them all, not just throw a piece of spaghetti up on the wall and figure it out. I need to understand what my employees need. Um, you know, like for you example, if you were my employee, right, I would understand that every morning at 8 o'clock, you have to drop your daughter off at the school.
That's right.
So I'm instead of stressing you out by going, you got to be to work at, you know, 8 o'clock or 8:30. I'm going to go, well, what time do you need to go to work so that you can confidently, even if there's a giant line at the school and a traffic jam, what time can you come to work and put those times in? And industry is really starting to get to that, and the work at home, of course, of the pandemic. And this is just an example. But as a leader and as a mid-level leader, otherwise known as a manager,
Coach, coach, team coach.
Yeah, we'll use the word coach. So need to really be emotionally tied in to their team and create that cohesion. So you use a great word, coach. I love the word coach because it conjures up NFL, it conjures up MLB, professional soccer. And I had an interesting conversation because somebody was having to deliver video, and they were getting very emotional about it because it was a very emotional thing. And I had a great conversation. And I told her that you have to realize, I said, you are a coach now. You are not in it. That is your past.
Wow.
And that you need to look at it like, I've had this experience, okay?
Right.
And now I'm going to help you have it, but I'm going to help you have it better because I'm going to teach you past all the mistakes I made during this experience so that you don't have the negative experiences from it. That's a coach. And you cannot do that. You cannot create cohesion in a team unless you understand your team from an emotional standpoint and from an environmental standpoint.
Yeah, I love that. The note that I have for myself is being able to accommodate and getting to know your employee is investment in their rejuvenation, right? Because it allows for them to be able to come to work rejuvenated with all the energy, with all the focus, right? I love that. Let me ask you something. What if, whether in a business or as a person, what if there's too many options? Right? You gave the example of President's Club, just throwing out, a gift or something along the lines, right, to the top salesperson. Well, what if when you audit or when you start asking, it's not that the entire crew just loves golf, but
Right.
they want golf and they want bowling and they want excursions and they don't want to travel and they, or even as the individual, right? What happens when there's too many options for rejuvenation? How can we best determine what the right fit is for the individual and the organization?
Well, again, I think you're wrapping that around like a team gathering, team get together on the week. I just want to make sure that we're talking about the same thing. So you build consensus. I mean, that's you have a meeting about you instead of just throwing something out there. You sit down with the team and you go, "Hey, we're going to do a team meeting. We're going to do team building exercise. I'm not going to tell you what it is. Let's get together and what does the team think would be the best use of our time for a team get together? What do you guys want to do? Let's come to a consensus." And then you build the program around the environment that they want to be in. And by the way, they will soak up the information from the get together just because they're in the positive environment, as opposed to putting them in an environment that's uncomfortable for any of them.
I love that. Yesterday in our, I'm bringing up the private meeting, but I'll bring up the some of the ideas that came up from it. When we were talking about in regards to specifically marketing, right? We were speaking about, how do we get the word out there? How do we make sure that we're providing value? And you had brought up the You had brought up the fishing analogy. Is it best then to just throw things out? Like it's kind of like, do I just throw candy out to the kids and say, go ahead, kids? Like, is it the same thing in my team or my organization? Do I just pick a bunch of stuff or to start, right? Because what if I'm just starting, right?
Well,
Do I
if you're
or,
if you're just starting, you need to, if you're having weekly one-on-ones with your team members, then you start bringing up more personal conversations in that. Okay, you have to start by, you can't just snap your finger and build a bond. Okay, you build a bond by getting to know someone. If you haven't really gotten to know your team, you need to make that a priority in your one-on-one meetings and start getting a little bit deeper with your team. And then you're going to understand what it is that you need to bring to the table for their rejuvenation and for their ability to recover. Yeah, because this pays off. I mean, this pays off in productivity. At the end, you have happy employees. You have employees that felt heard and cared about, and employees that feel cared about are the ones that stay.
Yeah.
You can do everything else in the world, but if an employee doesn't feel that you care about them or that the organization cares about them, there's always a better opportunity down the road.
And so when do you start aligning that employee and specifically in regards to rejuvenation, right? Because we could speak about execution and some of the other stuff, but in regards to rejuvenation, does a business have a desire or a certain taste? Is it possible that an organization in and of itself is like, yeah, you know what, the team does really well with this, right? How do you find that taste, right? Because and the reason why I ask is because I remember going through a bunch of Fortune 50 companies, Fortune 500 companies that it felt fake. I would sit down in these one-to-ones and it was, hey Bill, this and that, da da da, and we want to invest. So what are you looking for? And now I'm a 20-something punk sitting with the manager, and I'm sure some of the older colleagues said maybe an uplift in benefits, maybe there was something else, whatever. I said I just wanted cash. What do you do in that regard where the rest of the team is like, yeah, you know what, we're going to uplift the benefits, we're going to make sure that you have an investment in your education. Okay, everyone, thanks so much, bye. You have these outliers, right? What do you do with individual outliers from a management perspective or even from an organization, right? Think of like, a Fortune 50. Not everyone, not the entire company doesn't want to go golfing. The entire company doesn't want to go bowling, right? So what do you do in those cases?
So I want to change your perspective here because I'm not really talking about upping benefits. I'm talking about team building. Okay, so that's very specific to, there's no cash option that goes out in a team in a team building. When you're talking about rejuvenation, a lot of companies should do it once a quarter. Is really having that as part of your culture within your department and within your company.
Yeah, that's so
and that's really, that's a different conversation that you're having.
And yet, in my experience, Paul, every time there was a conversation of rejuvenation or investment in the individual or the group to make sure the team is okay, right? We'd have these one-to-ones and they would seemingly feel intimate. And then it's like, yeah, you know what? I think this would be great. And I definitely would love more cash, right? Because then it allowed me to be able to whatever, and then
Yeah.
And then they'll say, great. And what about the team? And it's in such disarray where, I'm not going to speak for other people. I say, you know what? I really don't know about the team. I won't be so bold as to speak for the team, but I know that they're not happy either. And they would kind of appreciate the same, right? Because, and to your point, I think we're getting clarity on it, right? Mm-hmm. Being intentional in your desire to ensure that your team is rejuvenated is the core of that is being clear in that communication, right? This isn't a one-to-one. This isn't, hey, I'm bringing you in on a one-to-one because I want to not only build a relationship as the individual, but I also want to get a sense of how you feel in regards to the team. So what I'm hearing from you, and correct me if I'm wrong, is being clear in your communication in regards to rejuvenation. Uh, and and I gotta be honest, and maybe these big fortune, whatever, are just getting it wrong, or at least a few that I've been a part of. Every time it was, what are you looking for in the team? And I would say, I want coaching. I'd love an event where we can go together. I love a conference where we can go as a team. I'd love to be able to, and they're like, yeah. So what we're hearing is, and they'll try and clarify, and then it's just a pizza party in the cafeteria.
Yeah, well, so that's execution. That's that particular manager is not listening,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
he's not executing it on the information that's being delivered.
So what are they
So I
missing?
mean,
So what are they
right.
missing? This is my experience. Full transparency here.
Oh
That
no,
is my
absolutely.
experience.
So it's interesting because like the Fortune 50 companies got their asses kicked in the pandemic
Right.
because there was a giant migration from the office to home where people now could rejuvenate on their terms,
Right.
right? Okay. So they learned they have learned a valuable lesson. There's been a big shift in quote industry,
Right. Big time.
right? Big
Absolutely.
shift because they realized that they weren't providing it and they weren't hearing it, and now they have to deal with the work at home. I know a few Fortune 50 companies whose culture, they're afraid they're going to lose their culture because
Right.
they don't have the employees in the office. What they're really finding out is that they didn't have a culture. Okay.
Wow.
And so now people are left on their own. Okay. This goes to mission and corporate values, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Tell me about it.
the manager that you're talking to is supposed to and should have been hired based on a set of core values of that company. And if that manager really believed in those values, depending on what they were, he should have been having those conversations with you, getting to know your values, should have
Yeah.
hired you based on those values,
Right.
and there should have been an alignment there, right? So, basic on the values and the mission and who you are, then you get into a basic understanding or a basis of information to have a discussion with you that is personal and can align the rejuvenation activities within the company with the group that will put them in a comfortable position for those team building exercises.
Yeah.
Okay,
100%. Oh my
your manager,
God. I
okay,
wish that was
that
my
manager,
experience.
whoever
I
that
wish.
manager was, and really to talk about clarity, what I picked up, and you started going down this road, I said that's a different conversation. That manager was having two separate conversations with you,
Yeah.
right, at the same time, which fogged the whole thing, and you
Yeah.
couldn't be clear. You couldn't get
Correct.
clarity, and he couldn't get clarity
That's right.
because he didn't understand his goals in that conversation.
And to your
And
point, I don't think he was in alignment with the values of the organization too, as well. Like in retrospect, right? Thinking about this, it's like, oh man, like just everything was off. And I have to think how many times, how many corporations, right? Because it couldn't have been just the handful that I've been with. How many times have corporations just absolutely missed this mark? So how can we, from an organizational perspective, right? CEO, Fortune 50, and you bring up a great point about how culture has changed, right? The work culture has changed because now it's independent of the employee because we're home, right? We're working from home.
mhm.
And so how do you then wrap around in this post-pandemic, for lack of a better term, how do you wrap around building and curating a culture that one of the foundations or one of the legs that it stands on is rejuvenation. How do you begin that?
Well, ultimately, you need to get very clear on your core values as a CEO and the core values of the company, of your executive leadership group.
Yeah.
You have to be absolutely clear. And those core values are going to be the basis for who you hire into your organization, because you want complete alignment. And if you're not getting complete alignment, then you shouldn't be hiring them. And that is the basis of your employee of your review of your performance review.
Sure.
It should be based on those core values.
Oh, that's interesting.
Okay.
Is it fair to say, or is it a good idea to ensure that a KPI of an employee is how often they went on vacation or how often they invested it in themselves? Would you consider that a unique way of, I guess, ensuring a level of rejuvenation with your team?
I think that would, honestly, I think that would be over control. I think that would be overreach.
Got
I think that when you start dictating how the employee is going to rejuvenate outside of the office, I think you need to have a boundary. They need their boundary there, because they may be saving that. You don't know. They may be going. They want a 1 monther to get married next year, and if your policy is that they get to keep all of their thing, but I would keep an eye on how much, vacation that they are taking, and that would be a conversation. But I definitely wouldn't make that a KPI.
No, interesting. So what is a good way systematically to ensure that the team is, going on vacation, is, taking their time off, is, somehow investing in their own rejuvenation?
Well, that's your one-on-one. I mean, that's the personal conversation in your one-on-ones with them. That's, that they're doing that. So you're in your performance review, you're going to review that they're executing right, that they're getting stuff done, that they're growing, that they're becoming better employees, all of those things. And then you're incorporating that with your team building exercises that you do. You take a day to do something with the team a minimum once a quarter.
Sure.
That you're creating that cohesion. So one thing about being really tied into your team, you really know what your team's doing. You have, anecdotal feedback to couple with the data. And that's exactly how you figure out what you should be coaching each individual on. Not managing them. You're not managing them, and you're coaching them, right? Because they want to be the best that they can be. If that's your culture, that's exactly, and you're the coach. You want your A players to do as much right as they can, so you're coaching them through that. And that's what one-on-ones should be. I've seen one-on-ones that are just draining. It's I've been in one-on-ones that are
one of many where I go, oh gosh, you are so corporate, please.
It was interesting. My jaw dropped. A very good friend of mine runs a very high-end team, and we're drinking one night, and he says to me, "I'm not here to manage people. I'm just here to manage the data." I'm like, our core values are a little off here.
Yeah, no people focus, right? There's no focus.
It's like, I don't need to micromanage this. We don't micromanage. We coach. Yeah. It's a different thing. I'm here as let's say I'm a VP. I'm here to block and tackle. I'm here to keep people out of your way. Okay. which is rejuvenating in a sense, right? And I'm here to provide you all the tools that you need to be the best that you can be, and I'm here to guide and help you through what you need to accomplish. That
Yeah.
is my job. That really is my job.
What I'm
And to do that effectively,
Yeah.
I need to know you from a value standpoint. I need to know you personally. I need to know your goals, personal and agreed on corporate goals. And I truly need to understand. I need to be empathetic to that.
Yeah, what I'm
Okay.
hearing is that rejuvenation requires very clear communication. But the foundation of rejuvenation is communicating. Communicating needs, desires, wants, communicating values, mission, the vision, and ensuring that that communication is both ways. That's the foundation before you even could even begin investing versus rejecting rejuvenation in your employees. Am I understanding correctly?
I think that's right. And I love, that you say communication. And I'm going to add a word to that. I'm going to go authentic communication.
Mm.
So it's amazing. And I've been in both types of companies where the communication is manipulative and companies where it's authentic.
Yeah, yeah, same.
Okay. And it's interesting when the authentic communication is coming out, real things get talked about. Things that might hurt people's feelings get
But
talked
it
about,
needs to be talked
but
about.
it needs to be talked about, right?
Right.
And with authentic communication, once you get used to it, it's amazing that those things aren't taken personally anymore because it's authentic, right? Where the kind of the passive aggressiveness of the manipulative communication, I'm going to get them to do this by saying this, is damaging to the cohesion of the team,
Yeah.
and it's damaging
Fear
to,
mongering, or right, like, hey, if you don't do this, you're not gonna, bang, one, two,
well,
three.
companies who have authentic communication have low politics. Companies that have manipulative communication have extremely high politics. Everybody's gunning. There's always going to be a certain level of politics, but companies with authentic communication tend to get that discussed, right? And so the stress level goes down, which is rejuvenating. So
Wow.
if you want,
Man, there's no better way to end it there. That's awesome. That is so that is such a gem. That is such a gem to understand that clear communication in and of itself is authentic communication is and results a rejuvenated team or cast or crew or whoever you're working with. That hands down is insightful. We're going to dive even more into that next time when we speak about rejuvenation. I'm conscious of time. I know that we just landed on just this amazing gem, but if there's anything else that people need to know about rejuvenation, Paul, I'll give you the last word. What is it that people need to remember in regards to rejuvenation?
get to know your people. Ultimately, get to know them so that you can really understand who they are and what drives them. That is going to help you so deeply in your organization. And make sure that that you're clear on your goals. And this goes personally and corporate. Be clear on your goals, be clear on your values, and surround yourself with people. As an individual, surround yourself with people who have similar values. And from a corporate standpoint, make sure that you are hiring and analyzing your people based on that clear set of values.
Love it. Love it. If you too are looking to feel rejuvenated, head on over to clevelandrain.com, whether in your personal life or in business. But more than ever, if you are someone who is in sales, if you are someone who's trying to get to that next level, if you're the leader of an organization, Paul Routhier and his team are hands down phenomenal. He is taking on clients almost daily now at this point. And so if you just even think that you may want to meet please be sure to head on over to clevelandrain.com and book some time with Paul and the team, and let them get to know you so that you can feel rejuvenated, not only in your clarity, but in your tasks, but also everything else that's in regards to the Tiger framework, right? So that you can be more tenacious, that you could feel inspired, so that you can give in your generosity, right? That you can execute and ultimately feel rejuvenated as you know that you've done right by you, your team, and your community. So with that, everyone, take care. We'll see you soon on the next episode of the Tigers Den Live. Bye, everyone.